ప్రేమ స్వరూపులారా, విద్యార్థులారా, ఐ.
Greetings, Science Scoopers. You've tuned in to your weekly booster. Your mission, should you choose to accept, is to scoop deep into your heart and reconnect. Welcome to Inside Scoop, a podcast that brings you practical servings of Swami's sweetest teachings. Guys, today's speaker holds a very special place in my heart. She exudes an aura of pure joy and truly lives Swami's message of boundless, unconditional love whilst excelling as a political analyst. Hi, Pia.
Hi, Neera. Sairam. Thank you so much for such a wonderful introduction.
You know, Pia, I think the most fundamental lesson we imbibe as Sai devotees is to surrender the results of our actions to Swami. And I thought I had nailed that lesson. My whole life, I focused on the work and surrendered the results. And I trusted that process because the results mostly went my way. Plot twist when I studied law in Melbourne, because despite giving my 100%, the results weren't always favorable. And I was still really relaxed about it because my conscience was clear. But this attitude didn't really sit well with society, and my friends and family construed this as me being complacent, laid back, and sometimes even irresponsible. And that's when I began to doubt this process because I had to justify it. And these doubts were amplified when I read this study on the locus of control. So in summary, the study found that people with an internal locus of control, which means that they generally believe that their success or their failure is a result of their own effort and hard work, do better than people with an external locus of control, which means they believe that their success or failure is a result of circumstances like fate, luck, injustice, etc. Which brings me to my first question. Society demands, meticulous planners and applaud those who guarantee good outcomes. And even this study reflects the power of control. So while we operate in this world and we try to live up to our fullest potential, is it realistic to surrender and, be detached from the fruits of our actions?
I think that's an excellent question, and it's very relevant when we're trying to grapple with the concept of surrender. Before answering if it's really realistic, I think we first need to be clear on what really does it mean to surrender to Swami or to surrender to Sai. I think a spiritual practice that I have found very relevant to really comprehend what does surrendering mean is the practice called the PN formula, or the Prasadam Naivedyam formula.
Right.
So in practice of this formula, I realized that all of our actions should be offered to Swami as Naivedyam.
Right.
This way, we will always be inspired to do our best and lovingly offer all of our thoughts, words, and deeds at His lotus feet. So what will be the quality of our offering to Swami? It has to be the best, right? We will not offer anything that is subpar to Swami. So we offer it to Swami as Naivedyam. And as you practice this formula, as I've been practicing this formula, I'm also able to remain aware that whatever that happens to us, seemingly good or bad, every blessing that we receive or every difficulty that we encounter is Swami's prasadam to us. And when we accept all circumstances as His prasadam, we have faith knowing that whatever He gives us is truly best for us. Whatever happens to us is only in accordance to His will. And so nothing can really happen to us that is not in accordance to His sankalpa. If you truly have faith that, not even a blade of grass can move without His will, then you will never ever question the outcome. You will never ever question the circumstances that you are confronted with, because you know that Swami has given this to you as prasadam. And so whenever anything comes by your way, your only attitude will be the attitude of gratitude. This could be a very challenging outcome to deal with. It could be a challenging circumstance to grapple with, but you know that this is Swami's prasadam. So how do you receive prasadam from Swami? You will only say thank you, Swami, right? So as we lead our lives in this PN cycle, this cycle of prasadam and naivedam, I feel that Swami then installs his PN in our hearts, his Prashanti Nilayam. Then brings us to the ultimate realization that he and we are one. And so if we are able to practice this PN formula, which I think is a very concrete way of putting surrender into action, then it will be a very realistic way of living life, because whatever actions you do, you have to do your best, because you're offering this to Swami as Naivedyam. And so you don't offer anything that is sappa. And then whatever happens to it, you just have to let go from the results of it, right? Because there's really nothing you can do after you've done your best. You just have to wait and watch what happens next. And whether you accept those circumstances begrudgingly, resentfully, remorsefully, with disappointment and frustration, or you accept it with a smile on your face, is really how you want to deal with life and how you want to lead your life. I would recommend doing the latter, because that gives you so much joy to just navigate through the inevitable tragedies of existence. You're not always gonna have success come by your way. You're bound to be confronted by failure and disappointment. But when you surrender, you kind of deal with it better, because you tell yourself, you console yourself, like, this too is Swami's will. I'll accept this. I know that he's given me what he deems best for me.
Fantastic. So then maybe the real question is how we are measuring the success rate of surrendering. Maybe we have to examine it holistically and take a 360 view and not confine it to just the tangible outcomes like professional accomplishments or grades, but our state of mind, how much happiness, strength, and freedom we are feeling, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because even if you don't surrender, there will be a lot of things that happen to you in your life that are outside your locus of control, like losing a job, like studying hard for an exam but getting poor grades, or losing a loved one. These things are really nothing that you can do about, because these are things that happen to you. How you deal with them, a realistic way, is just to learn the lesson and move on peacefully. So it is such a pragmatic way to live life, honestly, if you ask me.
But even though surrender seems like the most obvious, simple, peaceful way to live life, why do you think society places tremendous emphasis on being in control and having certainty?
I think because as humans, we tend to fear the uncertain. We rather know that we are going to fail than not know what is going to happen. So we love certainty. And so just the fact that now we have to place control in this power that is beyond our comprehension, that notion can seem quite intimidating to us. I think it is the fear of the unknown.
I love how you brought up the point about fear being the element that's holding us back from being able to surrender completely. So let's unpack this concept of fear a little bit more to see how we can overcome it. One way is to use facts and empirical data to assess if it's even worth being fearful. Which brings me to the next question. How much of life is truly certain? What are some aspects of life that we can and can't control?
So I think life is inherently uncertain. We don't even know if we're going to wake up the next day. I've had so many friends, relatives, even my immediate family members, a family member who has passed away so suddenly, and that has compelled me to think about how uncertain life really is. So when we talk about aspects of life, that is even more uncertain, given that the fact that whether or not we'll be breathing the next moment or not is not guaranteed. What are aspects of life that we have control over? How I understand this is, imagine there is a dog that is tied on a leash to the bark of a tree. Okay. the dog is able to move around that tree within a fixed circumference.
Right.
And that circumference is the length of the radius of that circumference is the length of the leash. So beyond that ambit, the dog cannot move any further. When you imagine that dog as a little spot on Google Earth, and you zoom out of Google Earth, and then you see the whole Milky Way, you see the whole solar system, you see the whole Milky Way, you see the bajillion galaxies, universes that all of creation is full of, you realize that space that the dog has to navigate is so infinitesimal that it is almost negligible.
Right.
You know, the free will that dog has in the grand scheme of things really doesn't matter, given how vast the universe is. How much space the dog has to navigate is really inconsiderable. I think, you know, that's the level of control that we have as human beings. We do have a limited amount of free will. We do have some control over certain aspects of our life, certain decisions, certain choices that we make. But in the grand scheme of things, when you just understand the vastness of the universe, you realize that control, that free will is so limited that it is negligible.
That's such a brilliant analogy, Pia. And so your perspective is that our level of autonomy depends on our point of reference. So the further we go from that point of reference, the less control we seem to have. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
So Pia, if we adopt your perspective and start from the premise that there is really not much we can control, maybe this fear that we have is really quite pointless, because uncertainty is just the nature of life, and we just need to learn to accept it rather than fight it. So would you say it is also our obsession over the future and our inability to be, you know, completely present that makes surrender seem so difficult?
Absolutely, Meera. I think if we look at the vagaries of our mind, we will observe that the mind tends to usually go in one of two directions. It is either in the past, questioning the things that have already happened and wondering if those things could have transpired differently.
Right.
You might be beating up yourself. Or the mind tends to worry about the future. It projects itself to the future and thinks about what are things that might happen. I hope things go in this certain direction. I hope things work out according to my plan. I have so much anxiety. What if this doesn't happen? What if that doesn't happen? So the mind is very rarely present in the now. There is this excellent story that one of the Parthi boys had shared with us. It was his birthday, so Swami had called him and asked him, "What do you want?" And he said, "Swami, I want a mantra." And Swami said, "I've already given a mantra to all of humanity. Love all, serve all, help ever, hurt never. Practice that." So he said, "No, Swami, I want a mantra that is personal for me." And then Swami tells him, "There is no such thing as a personal mantra. Imagine if Arjuna had said that whatever Krishna has told me on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the entire Bhagavad Gita, that is knowledge that is only personal to me. I'm not going to share it with the rest of the world. Then how would the world grow? How will we progress spiritually? So there's no such thing as personal mantra." But this boy was so persistent. He said, "No, Swami, please. I'm from a Brahmin family. My dad insisted that I get a mantra from you." And so then Swami so lovingly leaned into his ear and whispered to him. The mantra is Lavu, Navu, Navu. Lavu means love, Navu means smile, Now means now. Love as in practice unconditional love. Be that source of unconditional love and spread that unconditional love. Smile. When you are in any type of situation, if you can train yourself to always welcome that situation with a smile, you by default raise the vibration that you are operating at. Because you then train yourself to accept all situations as Swami's prasadam. You train yourself to know that all of this is happening to me only because of Swami's will, and all of this is Swami indeed. Finally, now, remain in the present, remain in the now. Don't let the mind wander in the past or worry about the future. Just trust that this is happening because Swami has wanted this to happen in this particular way. And just be grateful for that moment that you are alive and Swami has given you this awareness. I think if we're just able to practice this lavu, navu, navu, there is no goal to reach because we are already at the goal. We are in the goal in divinity.
Absolutely.
So, lavu, navu, navu, a very easy way to surrender and practice being in the present.
Beautiful. And it reminds me of something Sanjay Mahalingam, who's also Swami's student, says. He said he can summarize his spiritual practice to one habit, that is to deepen his experience and awareness of the present moment. So with every day he just tries to go deeper into what now actually means, and he sees more and more things and hears more and more things. His senses are just exposed to more and more things, so it's a never ending deepening process of the now. But then I have this other question, right? Because you've said we have limited control, does that mean, and this is my monkey mind again just playing up, we can become complacent, make as many mistakes as we like, and use the fact that we have limited control as an excuse for inaction?
I think inaction is adharmic. If we read the Bhagavad Gita and if we read Gita Vahini, Swami really emphasizes on how, insofar as we are human, it is our dharma to engage in karma. If we don't, if we succumb to complacency, if we succumb to inaction, then we are becoming victims of the tamas guna. We become tamasic, So that is not our dharma. If we are really surrendering, we have to surrender the action and the outcome of that action to Swami.
Right.
When Arjuna was at the battlefield and he was crying and wallowing in sorrow, saying, how should I kill my own relatives? I'd rather not do anything. Krishna tells him, no, it is your dharma to fight. You have to engage in action, but just offer those actions to God itself and God will take care of the karma of those actions. So we definitely cannot succumb to complacency because that is adharmic. If we tell ourselves that, we don't have to do anything because we are surrendering everything to Swami, then we are really missing the point of surrender. Sure, we may not have free will because everything is already preordained, but given that it is our karma, it is our dharma to do karma, we still have to do that karma. We cannot listen.
Right. I suppose then that's where planning and setting goals helps prevent us from straying onto the path of inaction, right? So is your perspective then that we act until it's time to surrender, and then we surrender until it's time to act?
I think acting also is surrendering while acting. So
Right.
I won't say there is a dichotomy. I think it is just surrender all the way, because surrender includes acting and waiting for the responses or waiting for the
Right.
results of that action. So
Right.
that there should be no moment where you are not surrendering. Right from the time when you wake up till you fall asleep, even the great yogis say that the last thought that you should have before you sleep is a thought of sharing love with all of universe, so that when you're asleep you are still in that vibration where you are giving to creation, you are giving love to creation. When you wake up, you offer your day to Swami, and so there's really not even a single breath that you should take as a sadhaka that is not practicing surrender.
Amazing. This has been really thought-provoking. I've re-understood the concept of surrender. It's not just about surrendering the outcome, it's about surrendering the effort in itself. And I think maybe why I struggled with surrendering so much is because I think I'm surrendering, but it's only at a conceptual level, But when it comes to actually performance time, I'm still resisting and I'm still holding on to my wills and my intention and what should I write on this piece of paper or what should I say, even when I'm already holding the mic and beginning to speak. So, but when actually what I should be doing is Draupadi in the Mahabharata, both hands completely up in the air, right? No longer even holding the sari with one hand.
I think if you're going to be doing that in the Sai circle, a few aunties will come after you. Like, Sarah,
I didn't mean literally, but you get what I'm trying to say, right? A part of us is still trying to impose our opinions of what's a good outcome, thinking, our plans and efforts are superior to his.
Absolutely. I have a very interesting story to share personally of my experience with surrender. So when I was in my undergraduate years, I had written my dissertation on Swami, and right from the moment of deciding that this is going to be the topic of my dissertation, I had already told Swami, I want to write this for you, you write it through me.
Right.
And I spoke to my supervisor, got approval for the proposal, went to Puttaparthi, did my fieldwork over there, and there were so many miracles along the way that came, just reaffirming Swami's presence. Even when I came back to Malaysia after finishing my fieldwork in Parthi, while I was writing the dissertation, every day when I was in the library, like I would tell Swami, write through me. And so much so that in the library itself, I could feel that strong fragrance of vibhuti, of sandalwood. I could feel Swami's presence. While writing, like I would be like crying so much because I could just feel like, he is over here and he's really taking over. I can never forget how, through that writing process, there was almost this cognitive dissonance of me observing how the words were coming out and how thoughts were forming in my mind and materializing on the screen, and just being in awe of what is being written. And I can't forget like just how emotionally invested I was. Like I was just crying all the time because it was so blissful writing that. When I submitted my dissertation, the examiners had said that they have never given this high of a grade to anyone in their life. It goes above and beyond the level of an undergraduate thesis. They said this is so groundbreaking and novel research that it has gone above and beyond the theorists who have used this theory in their work, and they said you're definitely ready for PhD, and then that dissertation went on to win the best dissertation prize, after which I got the Vice Chancellor's Award. I got this thing called the Nottingham Advantage Award, graduated with first class honours, and so much success followed. And honestly, I cannot take any credit for it because I knew like Swami is really taken over this, and the results just go to show like this is only him. Like I know what Pia is capable of, and Pia is definitely not capable of going above and beyond what the theorist's work originally was. So I think when we really surrender right from the beginning, from the process of offering that to Swami, he will really take care of it.
That was such a powerful story. And I guess it was so original because it came directly from the source, right? That's why it was so authentic and brilliant. This leads me to the next question. How do we find security and peace if there's so much we can't control, especially now given the pandemic?
The peace, I think, comes with the faith of knowing that Swami knows what is best for you, and even though right now it may be extremely challenging, this is part and parcel of your soul's journey. This is part and parcel of your spiritual growth. You have no choice but to accept it, and so you can either wallow in sorrow and say like and take up the victim mentality and say that why is everything happening to me, why am I suffering? Or you can be resilient and say, this is Swami's will, it's happening for my best. And understand it when the time is right. And even if I don't get the closure of understanding why certain things had to go a certain way, I trust and have faith that Swami will only give me what is the best for me. Neera, I think if we're able to practice Swami's prayer of surrender, we will be able to find a lot of peace. This just reaffirming this prayer has managed to help me significantly to reconcile with a lot of difficult situations. So if I can just share that with our listeners.
Sure, please go ahead.
Swami says, "Why get agitated? Let me take care of all of your business. I shall be the one who will think about them. I'm waiting for nothing else than your surrender to me. And then you do not have to worry any more about anything. Say farewell to all fears and discouragement. You demonstrate that you do not trust me. On the contrary, you must blindly rely on me. Remember that thinking of the consequences of a thing is contrary to surrender. That is to say, when you worry that a situation has had not the desired outcome, you demonstrate that you do not believe in my love for you. You prove that you do not consider your life to be under my control and that nothing escapes me. Never think, how is this to end? What is going to happen? If you give in to this temptation, you demonstrate that you do not trust me. Do you want me to deal with it? Yes or no? Then you must stop being anxious about it. I shall guide you only if you completely surrender to me. And when I must lead you on a different path than the one you expect, I carry you in my arms. You will receive a lot, but only when your prayer relies fully upon me. You pray to me when in pain so that I intervene, but in the way you desire it. You do not rely on me, but you want me to readjust. You want me to adjust to your requests. Don't behave like sick ones who ask for a treatment from a doctor, all the time suggesting it to him. Do not do that. Sometimes you feel that disasters increase instead of diminish. Do not get agitated. Close your eyes and tell me with faith, thy will be done. You think of it. And when you speak thus, I accomplish a miracle when necessary. I think of it only when you trust me totally. I always think of you, but I can help you completely only when you rely fully on me. And so that is the prayer of surrender. I think if we're able to just read this prayer or say this prayer every day, we'll find so much of strength within ourselves. We have nothing to worry about because he loves us so much. He's holding our hand. He's guiding us from within, from without. And so we just have to trust that he'll take care of everything, and he will take care of everything.
Thank you so much, Pia, for reminding us how liberating and pragmatic surrendering is when we practice it the right way. Dear listeners, it's now time for some prasadam pills for you to pop whenever you find it difficult to surrender. 1. Use the PN formula. Every thought, word and deed is offered to Sai as Naivedyam, and every outcome, good or bad, we accept with gratitude as prasadam from Swami. 2. The success rate of this process of surrendering shouldn't be measured by just the tangible results of our actions, but by the strength, resilience, and peace that it creates within us. 3. True surrender is to call him from the very beginning of every task and avoid resisting his intervention with our own intentions. Imagine ourselves as just Swami's little puppets, flexible, adaptive, responsive, dancing to his tune. 4. Hindsight is a beautiful perspective. Things may not make sense now, but as time passes, we often look back and see that Swami's timing was impeccable, and his plans were far grander than we could have imagined for ourselves. Even if we don't receive this closure, we must have unwavering faith that his delays are not his denials. 5. As children, we had no doubts that we would turn, crawl, walk, and things would just fall into place. Love is what we were born with, and fear is what we've learned here in this world. And this spiritual journey is about unlearning that fear, that the world will constantly pull us into, but we can always choose faith. And surrendering is a skill that we can perfect with practice. So let's use the prayer of surrender every day until surrendering becomes our second nature again. Next on Insight Scoop, we unpack this word purpose that we hear so often. What does it really mean, and how can we find it and live our purpose? Until next Friday, happy scooping!